Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
And we are FAIRtax Guys. Now, what were you saying just before we came on the air? Another FAIRtax item that we need?
Oh, the collapsible FAIRtax shower curtain.
And so you can remind yourself every morning that you need to get rid of the income tax as you're taking your shower every morning.
During quiet time in the shower, you can be reminded that the FAIRtax is simple, efficient, and visible. And in the shower, you're invisible.
All right. Well, we can forward that suggestion to the people that run fairtaxstore.org and see if they can come up with. I guess they just have to find a vendor that could manufacture those things.
Oh, there's somebody out there that can do it.
Oh yeah, there's people who make custom everything these days. So the thing is, you just got to come up with enough of them. So you order enough of them at a time that they can do that. I'm still thinking we need a FAIRtax Rubik's Cube. Possibly, maybe not as complex as this 11 by 11, but a FAIRtax Rubik's Cube would be cool.
2 squares, four squares, and that's it. How many squares would you have to make it?
Well, a normal Rubik's Cube is like 3 by 3 on each side.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you what. I found a couple of places on Amazon where you can just submit photographs, and they will print them on a Rubik's Cube for you. I've got my steam locomotive cube. You've seen that. So I just may send some FAIRtax logos up there and get my own FAIRtax little Rubik's Cube made. That would be cool. Okay, we need to get moving here on FAIRtax Power Radio, and as always, I am drawn to looking at what the Congress critters are doing to the tax code. Now, as we are recording this, we are in the midst of that government shutdown, but there is still, believe it or not, a fairly good, variety of stuff to pick from that was introduced before the Congress critters kind of, I won't say they went on strike, but the government shut down on them. But they're still doing things, and we're catching up on all the stuff that they've done. And we will start today with S 2962. This is from Jim Banks of Indiana. He's the sponsor on this one, and it's a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow the deduction under Section 199A to apply qualified BDC interest dividends in the same manner as qualified REIT dividends. And I had to look up what those things are. And BDC is a business development company, apparently a lender that makes loans to small businesses, and REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. So apparently the interest and dividends, from those two entities are not treated the same. And now the Senator Banks wants to amend the Internal Revenue Code to apply qualified BDC interest dividends in the same manner as qualified REIT dividends. Got that?
Yeah. One more thing to keep up with. Publication 17 just got a half a page larger.
Oh, Merz, that thing's like 300 pages already. So we're actually going to get into that right here on this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio a bit later. But let's keep going. Oh, this one's cute. This one made you say, "Oh," when you saw it. This is the PAW Act of 2025. Representative Jeff Andrew of New Jersey. You would think that the PAW Act would have something to do with four-legged critters, but that is not the case. Let me see. Let me dig into the text here. And the text on this one says the PAW Act, H.R. 5669, is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to expand the surviving spouse filing status to individuals whose spouses have died within the last 5 taxable years. And they said that PAW in this case meant protecting America's widows. So how cool is that?
Oh,
I think it might be better if you get a tax deduction for having too many four-legged critters around the house. You better describe what you're doing for people who are listening on the radio station or an audio-only podcast. They can't see what you just did.
it brought tears to my eyes.
So,
Not.
so yeah, you got out the hanky. Okay, let's keep going. This is from Senator Tom Cotton, S 2940, the OPT Fair Tax Act, and that, of course, that caught your attention. The title thereof,
What was the
and
number again? What was
the
Yes.
the S 2940, and the title is the OPT Fair Tax Act. And it says to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to include here's what that stands for: optional practical trading F1 visa holders as employment for purposes of taxes under the Federal Insurance Contribution and the Social Security Act. In other words, they want to make that stuff subject to the payroll taxes, Federal Insurance Contribution Act. That's what FICA stands for, which is your Social Security payroll tax. So they want to include optional practical trading for F1 visa holders as employment for the purposes of determining taxes under the FICA and the Social Security. Drive you nuts, don't it?
If it doesn't drive you crazy, you'll be close enough to walk.
Oh, mercy. All right, let's keep going here. Next item up for bids on Congress.gov today is H.R. 5595. This is from Representative McGuire of Virginia. And you dig into 5595, and let's see, my computer's actually being fairly responsive this morning. And it says, all right, this is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to modify the tax on remittance transfers. Now, what is that? When you send money by PayPal or some kind of wireless, wiring money to somebody, there's a tax on remittance transfers, and H.R. 5595 wants to modify that tax.
Yeah, require. Have I got the right one here? 5595 in this Congress?
5595. It's called the Requiring Excise for Migrant Income Transfers Act. That's the long title of it.
The Remit Act.
Yes.
So maybe John needs to explain this. To maybe Representative McGuire, his honorable representative, needs to explain this a little more.
Okay, well let's go on here. This is the last item up for bids today on the Congress.gov segment. Is from Representative Shri Thanedar. I think that's how you pronounce that. Thanedar from Michigan. It's H.R. 5561. 5561. The title is the Picket Line Protection Act of 2025. And of course, you dig into the text. Did you see that the text says this is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code? We talked about this a couple of programs ago, didn't we? To exclude strike benefits from gross income. Again, they're encouraging people to go on strike. I think we saw something from the Senate over there similarly not long ago. This is H.R. 5561 to exclude strike benefits from gross income, or whatever that's worth.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I think there are a lot of professional picketers now, maybe, that get paid to go out there, and who knows if they're being fairly represented in terms of the tax code. So it's probably pretty important that they do that this is happening.
Oh, mercy. I tell you, well, every week we look here at what the Congress critters are trying to put into the tax code. Obviously, not all of these things are going to pass, but some of them will, unfortunately. And now that has made me thirsty again, so I've got to get my can of Cheerwine.
Cheerwine is made in Salisbury, North Carolina, over 100 years old.
Yes, it is.
Not Bob Paxton, no, the Cheerwine. And not the Cheerwine he's drinking, but the company.
Yes. Okay. Well, by the time this episode airs, we will have done our live FAIRtax Power Radio show on the radio station up there. That was on October 19th. So we will video that. In fact, that video probably has already played. I'm going on a Hawaii cruise. We've already mentioned that several times. So we are getting well ahead in our recording schedule. And the stuff that we're recording now is going to stream several weeks from now. So that gets your mind all messed up when you're trying to keep what your calendar looks like. But anyhow, let's
Somewhere while you were on your trip, uh, we will have our 500th episode.
yes, actually, that is scheduled to stream. I do know that one. That is scheduled to stream on the first Tuesday in December, which is
Yes.
December 2nd. That episode has already been recorded and it's loaded up on the server. It's ready to stream on that particular date. That's I was talking with Jade Wally and Steve Hayes. Unfortunately, you had some conflicts that day and weren't able to join that conversation, but we'll give you a pass on that. That was a good one. I think folks should enjoy seeing that one.
I'm sure the three of you had enough to say where you didn't need me to go.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
well, well, Steve and Jade both are very, very easy to interview. I mean, you just mention a little topic and sit back, and they'll run with it all day long if you let them. So check that out on December 2nd, coming up here. 500 episodes of FAIRtax Power Radio. That's amazing. Well, I'll tell you, also speaking of Steve and Jade, Steve primarily is the one who writes the weekly chairman's report that's published on fairtax.org every week and several other places. I record it and put up a audio version on YouTube. So I get advanced copies of these things so I can record them. I also kind of edit them a little bit to improve readability a bit. And I'm going to borrow another subject idea from Jade. We did this a while back. But Jade wrote a chairman's report, and again, I'm not sure when that one is supposed to go because they're getting ahead as well. So I can get everything recorded while we're gone on the cruise. But Jade wrote something. You've heard of the principle Occam's razor, have you not?
Yes.
Would you care to explain it?
William of Occam was a 14th century scholar and a philosopher.
Okay.
Not like most of us in our own minds. He
Okay.
put a principle that says, in essence, when there's more than one solution to a problem, the simpler one is usually the best one. So they've called it Occam's razor because he mentioned his principle so often and employed it so sharply.
So he's been pretty much proven right over the centuries. So what we're going to do here for the next 15 minutes here on FAIRtax Power Radio is apply Occam's razor to the subject of federal taxation, comparing the current income tax to the fair tax, just simply on points of simplicity. And we'll see which one Occam's razor would like better. I think we already know what the answer is going to be, but we'll start out with the size of the thing. HR 25, the fair tax bill, about 130 pages long. The current income tax system has spawned over 80,000 pages of statutes, regulations, and case law. I think the fair tax wins that one hands down, thinketh thou not?
Without a doubt. And the scope, too, comparing the scope of the income taxes on our wealth and so on versus the fair tax. The fair tax replaces all of the income-based taxes and federal payroll taxes with a single progressive retail sales tax on the purchase of new goods and services.
So you basically have one tax under the fair tax. What do we have today?
Well, we have the individual income tax. We have the corporate income tax. We have capital gains taxes, inheritance taxes, gifts taxes, self-employment tax, alternative minimum tax, payroll taxes, which of course is Social Security and Medicare. And
all that stuff is what the fair tax replaces with a simple one tax, which is paid anonymously at the cash register when you buy things.
That's right. What are the requirements, Mr. Paxton, to comply with the income?
We've only got about 12 minutes left of the show. I'm not sure we can go through all of it, but the Reader's Digest version of requirements to comply. Of course, individuals and businesses under the income tax, they've got to file annual tax returns, and these must be backed up with extensive records that you've got to keep all throughout the year. I looked it up. There are over 800, believe it or not, 800 different IRS forms and schedules in total. It encompasses everything from individual income tax returns like your 1044 and all its schedules, business filings like Form 9441, information returns like W-2, specialized applications like the W-7s and the ITINs. And of course, this count, they said, includes revisions for different tax years, excludes state and local tax forms. That's just the federal stuff. 800 different forms. Some sources suggest the figure could exceed 1,000 when accounting for all the different variations in some of those forms. But that is just crazy. Businesses, again, as you know, they are required to calculate and make separate withholdings from employees' paychecks. Federal income taxes, Social Security, Medicare, we mentioned that. That just sounds like a lot of extra work you've got to do just to comply with the tax code. Now, you would like to look at the other side of that.
Yeah, fair tax is paid anonymously at the cash register when you make a retail purchase of new goods and services. I emphasize new because used goods, I don't know how you get a used service.
Yeah, that's kind of difficult.
So, you don't have to give up any personal information. When you pay to buy something new, you end up paying the fair tax, which is included in the price of your purchase. It requires no paperwork. Listen carefully, no paperwork of individual taxpayers. Therefore, no record keeping of any kind. You don't have to keep a shoebox full of little paper that some of the papers lose their readability after about 6 months. If you don't put them in a hermetically sealed container. Businesses are not required to calculate and make withholdings from employees' pay because the employee gets on the federal level everything, every amount of money. There's no withdrawal for this tax or withholding for Social Security, et cetera, at all.
So it sounds like the fair tax is infinitely more simple when it comes to what you have to do to comply with it.
Right. Can you imagine what time you would save? And think about it. We're getting ready to go into tax season here, beginning of 2026 for 2025. Imagine not having to keep up with, not having to fill out a form, not having to call somebody else to help you and spend a few $100s and several hours, many, depending on the complexity of your situation. Can you imagine what that would be like to regain all that time?
Oh, mercy. I tell you what, according to the latest estimates from the White House Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, they compile IRS data under the Paperwork Reduction Act, which would be kind of cool. This thing says Americans spent, get this, 7.1 billion with a B, 7.1 billion hours annually complying with federal tax filings and reporting requirements. Now, this is for the 2024 year. That's the latest one they have information for. There includes activities like your record keeping we're talking about, learning the tax rules, gathering documents, reading publication 17, completing forms, submitting returns. That comes out to, believe it or not, about 3.4 million full-time workers is what it would take to do that job, dedicated solely to tax paperwork. That's roughly the population of Los Angeles. And dealing with the tax system like that represents over 60% of all federal paperwork that's imposed on people. And a single taxpayer will spend like 13 hours per return. That rises to 23 hours for those with business income. And it's the economic cost is staggering. You want to touch on that?
Sure, why not? We're going on to page 2 of the income tax cost to comply. There's in our script here, there's probably four or 5 pages that we probably spend the rest of the day talking about this. But on average, a single taxpayer spends 13 hours per return, rises to 23 hours for those with business income. Total economic cost of federal tax compliance is estimated at $464 billion.
Wow.
covering tax preparation. That's just for 2024. Out-of-pocket expenses, at least 148 billion, covering tax prep software, professional services like CPAs, etc. Printing, mailing, the IRS's official estimate is lower at 133 billion, but independent analysis adjusts upward for underreporting. Most of the time. How are you gonna? You're not going to be able to catch everything, for crying out loud. Can we jump over to? I mean, we can go through individual income taxes. 2.0 billion hours, 70 billion direct costs, economic costs, individual, 140 billion dollars. Corporate income taxes, 1.1 billion hours. The direct cost is 40 billion, and the total economic cost is 80 billion dollars. Employment taxes, others, the total hours for income, individual, corporate income, employment taxes, and everything that could be thought about and needs to be dealt with totals to 1.7 billion hours, $148 billion in direct costs, and 464 billion total economic costs. And
that's amazing. I can't even imagine 7.1 billion hours spent dealing with federal taxation. And of course, with a fair tax, no additional cost to individuals beyond the tax itself, no additional time required for compliance. I think I know which one Mr. Occam would prefer in this instance as well.
Just this over here, that's what we just talked about with the Internal Revenue Service. This over here, that right there, is the fair tax. As you analyze the cost to comply. For those of you on radio and podcast audio, I just showed the script that we are using for today's program, and this cost to comply page for the Internal Revenue Service continues on to an entire different page, as you can see right here.
Oh, mercy. Well, let's get on down here now. How much instruction people need in order to comply with each different tax system is kind of indicative of the simplicity of each one. And if you look at this, that says the IRS publishes approximately, this is almost as many pages as the tax code, 75,000 pages of instructions, guidance, and related materials to help taxpayers complete their federal tax return. Now, this includes form-specific instructions, the detailed instructions for each particular form, and we noted there are over 800 of them. Publications, over 200 explanatory publication booklets like your favorite Publication 17, which is now over 300 pages long. It covers topics of deductions and credits and stuff, additional guidance as well that the IRS publishes, revenue procedures, notices, rulings that interpret the law for practical application. So this total, I mean, that just reflects the complexity of the U.S. tax system, where the statutory Internal Revenue Code says about 2,600 pages. Practical compliance requires the IRS's materials, about 9,000 pages of regulations, extensive rulings, case law, and stuff like that. It's just insane that you need thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pages of instructions just to tell people how to deal with the system. That's on the income tax side. You want to take the fair tax side?
Yeah, none necessary.
That's it?
No instructions necessary. You go to the cash register. You already do this. This is a function of society that's been in place for decades and years and thousands of years. I got a cow. Bob's got a horse. Bob needs a cow. I need a horse. We make a trade. That type of activity has been going on for a long time. And here we are with dealing with the tax code for the income tax. And you're not going to do anything different with making purchases. You know how to go to the grocery store and buy food. You know how to go buy a car. You know how to deal with haggling with somebody over the price of a new house or that kind of thing. So that's it. There's no instructions. It's just, hey, you already know how to do this. And so all of the money in taxes gets lumped in with the cost of whatever you're purchasing that's new. And there you go. And there are plenty of other services and benefits that don't require a tax at all, like, for instance, on education.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, I'll tell you what, we're running short on time here. We need to scoot through these last items pretty quickly. But of course, I will tell folks that I used Grok to dig up some of this information. But it's talking about, says the Internal Revenue Code contains a complex array of tax credits and deductions. We talk about that every week here on FairTax Power Radio with the Congress.gov segment. This thing said the IRS includes approximately 60 distinct tax credits for individuals or businesses as of the 2024 year. Credits for individuals around 20, such as the Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, American Opportunity Tax Credit, about 40 business credits. That seems like it's about 10 times that much when we're looking at Congress.gov. They have the Research and Development Credit, the Work Opportunity Credit, the various energy-related credits, and the Joint Committee on Taxation says 58 different credits, though they're it's just insane how much there are. The deductions are a little harder to quantify, and we just kind of we say we're running short on time. Let's just kind of let that sit for a while. But what about deductions and credits within the fair tax?
Well, I thought you'd never ask. Uh, Deductions and credits applies to the retail purchase of new goods and services. It's included in the price. Used goods are not taxed, and tuition at educational institutions not taxed either under the fair tax.
Oh, mercy. Okay.
Time is a big, big thing that gets saved in all of this.
All right, administration and enforcement. Last item up for bids here on this particular show is, of course, the income tax is administered and enforced by the Internal Revenue Service. Size and scope thereof, it is a massive federal agency within the Department of the Treasury. The size of the IRS, the workforce, it employs about 80,000 full-time equivalent staff. Revenue agents and officers, about 13,000. Customer service representatives, about 15,000. IT and administrative staff, people maintaining their DOS 2.0 systems, seasonal workers as well. The budget is $12.3 billion. That's per the Treasury's fiscal year 2024 congressional justification. It operates a national headquarters in Washington, D.C. It's got processing centers in Austin, Texas, Kansas City, and Ogden, Utah. 350 taxpayer assistance centers nationwide, and regional offices, field offices. Of course, the scope of it just goes everywhere. Revenue collection, tax processing or returns, writing all of the instructions and the guidance, of course, enforcement and compliance. It just goes on and on and on and on. The effort and in both time and money that it takes to administer and enforce the income tax. And compared to the fair tax,
administered and enforced at the state level through the existing state departments of revenue. Aggregate spending on state sales tax administration and enforcement. It's another key on the retail tax register that gets printed out and transmitted to the state. And the retail guy gets a little hit for his part in collecting that tax, and then the state sends it in to the federal government. 50 states collectively are bringing in this data and information to the Treasury, and not 155 plus or minus million taxpayers.
Yeah, the 50 states spend about $3.1 billion annually on administering and enforcing their state sales taxes. And you go on down here, it says the way that tax collection works, they collect about $123 in revenue for every dollar spent on administration. That's with the sales taxes that the states are currently doing, and you would think that the fair tax would be similar because it's going to be handled in a similar way. It's just insane. There is no comparison whatsoever as to which one is simpler, which one is easier, which one is less costly, which one is less complicated. I think William of Occam would no doubt prefer the fair tax over the income tax, and we are just about slap out of time here. So I'll give you a real final word, real quick final word. Go.
Fair tax.
Okay, that's a good one. All right. Well, I say we are short on time. We are actually over a little bit, so we have got to wrap up this FairTax Power Radio for now. Thank you so much for watching and listening and sharing the videos. And until we meet again, same time, same channel next week, I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
We're the FairTax Guys, reminding you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So what do you need from me to get these taxes collected?
Glad you asked, because there is a fair amount of information you need to be aware of.
That's your tax plan?
Oh, no, this is just the revisions for this year's tax plan. What I need from you is you need to keep track of all of your income, as well as any taxes that you've already paid. Also, any gifts that you received or gifts you've given to churches or charities or individuals throughout the entire year. Do you do any side jobs?
Every now and again.
Great, because there's some more information about that right here. Everything you need to know right here. So just simply compile that, send it in to us. Be careful, make sure there's no mistakes. If we do find mistakes were made, we can fine you or, throw you in jail. So you might want to be aware of that.
And what do you need from me?
As an individual, nothing. As a business owner, or if you're doing side jobs, I mean, yes, you would have to collect taxes on that, but, well, it's all right here.
Can I get a copy of that?